Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff review of a trio of candles from Boy Smells. This is their new Secret Garden collection with one new scent and two returning favorites, which are all new to me, in fact. And so this is a review of their variety pack of 3 votive-sized candles, still in beautiful glass jars. So their traditional Boy Smells candles are 8.5 ounce single wicks. These are 3 ounce candles, a traditional votive size, to really get that variety of the different scents. And then if you really love one, maybe go for that full size candle. Retail on this pack is $66. The retail on the individual 8.5 ounce candles is $44. Though if you're a new customer, there's typically going to be a 10 or 15% off coupon offered to you on your first purchase, so something to keep in mind. These typically are for sale in boutiques. Sometimes you can find them at Nordstrom, of course, the Boy Smells website as well. If you want sort of a little bit more history or introduction to the brand itself, I have a few other reviews for Boy Smells, including a holiday winter trio votive set that I reviewed, as well as Park Life from their Hyper Nature collection. So really excited to dig into these. Really interesting branding here. They always have super intriguing, art direction here. So you've got sort of almost like, looks like spray painted with these. This is embossed here, and then shows you what you're getting, some of the notes. And then of course the actual candles themselves. So we've got 3 scents here. There's Hackney Garden, Rosalita, and Damask. And I'm going to sort of do, this is partially, obviously this is a review, but some of the notes in Boy Smells in particular, these really are fine fragrance, home fragrance. So they're really built with multiple notes and accords, 8 to maybe 15 notes per candle. So it's kind of like when you're trying to enjoy wine. If you just smell it and taste it, that's fine. You're gonna enjoy it, and whether you're gonna like it or you're not gonna like it, whatever. But if you learn a little bit more about the notes or how it's built or what they're, what you might be smelling or tasting or feeling in that, it's gonna really elevate the experience. And so that's what I do with really any home fragrance or any candles I smell. I wanna know what, did the perfumer or the creator want you to smell in this? What did they, market that to promise you would smell in this or feel by melting it or burning it? And what do I actually get from it? And with that, with the fine home fragrance like this, there are often many notes that we're not, fine, fragrance perfumers. We don't have, many of us in the candle or home fragrance world as enthusiasts don't have really a traditional professional training in all of the many, many notes. So I always do a bit of research to understand, if it's something I'm not familiar with, what is it? What is its origin? What is it used for? What does it smell like? And that's where we can learn together. So you will see me referencing some notes here as I go through, just to really get in depth into each of these candles to understand what we're supposed to smell based on the perfumers who built this with Boy Smells. And of course, just what I smell, and most importantly, why we burn candles is because we want to have that emotion, that feeling, that experience, something that transports us to a different time or place. Boy Smells candles are a coconut beeswax blend. One thing I will say, performance on votives, they're small, not always ideal. Some of these I had to either put foil around to get a really good full pool. I think that's something that I have experienced, of course, with many single wick candles. Boy Smells, though they are a really great brand, great company, and certainly an elevated quality beyond sort of your mass market, mall candles that you can get. This is still something that they are still plagued with some burn inconsistencies, which we often see with any kind of single wick candle of almost any size. Will typically do that. And beeswax coconut, interesting blend. You don't see that a whole lot. Most of what you're seeing in other brands is paraffin, vegetable, and or soy blends. But in general, it is a nice burn typically once you've got a good pool going, but you sometimes have to baby it a little bit. But getting right into it, so the Secret Garden collection, they say step into the secret garden where you can create a personal space to cultivate your own truth. Each scent is filled with diametric notes of different personalities that juxtapose beautifully against each other. This collection embraces floral, fruity, and herbal layers, spinning entirely new accords and worlds for fragrant living. So Boy Smells, again, they're very often heavy, deep, surprising, intriguing, and mysterious blends across the board from all of them I've ever smelled. There's sort of classic edge to a Boy Smells scent, but they are all very different at the same time. Digging in right into this, we're going to start with Hackney Garden. I will read you the description from the website as well as the notes, talk to you, kind of teach about the notes, and tell you what I sniff and smell from this. So here we do see, this is fully colored glass. This is a purple glass with an imprint of these sort of ivy leaves on here. You have the name and the notes both in English and French, and then just the small description of exactly what the candle is made out of, and that it is made in Los Angeles, California. And again, 3 ounces. Hackney Garden, they say this fresh herbal delight is inspired by East London's artistic Hackney neighborhood. Traditional English garden notes of neroli and ivy mingle with the grittier East London notes of patchouli and vetiver, which makes the perfect combination of spring candle scents. The result, a lush sensorial wonderland set in the midst of the city's edgiest borough. The scent, now this is very interesting. The scent of this spring candle also captures the technology of phytogaia, molecules emitted by forest trees proven to replicate the calming effect of nature. So essentially, phytogaia is inspired by the Japanese art of forest bathing, and it is actually a technique that captures the literal molecules emitted by forest trees that can supposedly bring a positive effect on people, and that is actually added to this. Boy Smells is not the only sort of fragrance house that has done this. I have seen a few other brands use phytogaia as a technology. I believe it is a trademarked technology, but really interesting. Whether it's marketing or science, probably a bit of both, I'm here for it. So this one, the notes on this, read you the full long list as we've got here. Orange peel, coriander seeds, ivy, neroli bud, petitgrain, galbanum, cistus, patchouli, phytogaia wood, gurgeon balsam, and white moss. So, a lot going on there. This is very green, very fresh, slightly sweet, but there's a depth of wood and resin to this. Don't think your oaks, your sandalwoods, your typical powdery woods that you get in a lot of, think of Bath & Body Works, a woody thing is gonna be a cologne, it's gonna be cedar or oak, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. There's a kind of small profile of scents that they typically choose from. This has got a lot going on. I will say very, very green. So thinking of the ivy in there. Orange peel, neroli bud. So neroli bud is going to be, so if it's bud, I mean the bud of the flower of neroli, which is the really especially, like a bitter orange tree, but neroli blossom is gonna be a little bit more kind of metallic even than just your typical orange blossom or bitter orange. Orange peel, again, you're getting the peel that is gonna be also a little bit more intense, not necessarily sweet. And coriander seeds, so coriander seeds being slightly, again, very fragrant floral seeds of coriander or cilantro leaves. So you get that top of fresh, but a heavy freshness. So it's not unlike Park Life from the Hypernature collection. So green, it's bright, but it's got a complexity or a mystique to it. Then you get a little bit deeper into the middle notes. You've got petitgrain, which petitgrain is from the bitter orange tree, but as opposed to the blossoms, it is actually from the twigs and leaves distilled into the scent of petitgrain. So like bitter orange, but earthier and darker and more tannic. Think of almost how wine would be more tannic if you have the twigs with the fermentation process. In wine, you're gonna get more of that tannins, even from the skins of the grapes. Similar deal here, you're getting much more of that earthy tannic quality. Now galbanum in here, galbanum is a gum-like material, like a resin, obtained from the stems of a Persian plant that is considered intensely green fragrance with some woody, some balsamic elements, described as earthy or forest-like, really valued to bring a rich, spicy green scent. You're talking intensely spicy green, again, very much part of what this is. Then we get into cistus. Cistus, now this is, again, where my sort of fragrance nerd comes out and I'm excited to learn about. Cistus is an essential oil distilled from the rock rose plant, which is native to the Mediterranean region. The rock rose plant gives us cistus as well as labdanum, which are both essential oils that are used very widely in home fragrance and fine fragrance. Now, cistus oil, essential oil, is more woody and herbaceous, with a less amber-like aroma than labdanum. It's considered deep, diffusive, musky, sweet, balsamic, dry, warm, earthy, with an herbaceous undertone, reminiscent of that true labdanum, but the labdanum essential oil, or the fragrance, is more amber, animalic, sweet, fruity, dry musk. Think of literally ambergris, which, if you are not aware, ambergris, which is, I believe, no longer used anymore due to endangered species, was actually a byproduct from the sperm whale's digestive system, and it was a thick, tarry, musky scented product that was prized for generations in fragrance and many uses back in the olden days. The ambers that we think of today are based on ambergris. Ambergris is no longer used, but this is one way the labdanum from rock rose plant is often giving you that amber scent. And cistus is from the same plant, but distilled different part of it, and that is going to be a little bit lighter, not quite as that heavy amber. All that to say, the sweet, now don't think balsamic like balsamic vinegar, but it's going to be sweet, comforting. Herbaceous is the primary thing with a bit of earthiness. So herbaceous being a kind of green, earthy being a little bit more brown in my mind, or dirty. It's not so much dirty like an earthiness can sometimes bring, but it is musky. So think of your ambers, and this is like a herbaceous, brighter, more comforting amber than a very heavy, overwhelming amber for me. And then you go into patchouli, which of course we know patchouli. It's actually a shrubby plant related to mint, often described as earthy, woody, sweet, musky. Now you see, we're talking petitgrain, we're talking galbanum, cistus, patchouli. A lot of earthy, woody, musky, sweet. So that's what you're getting with this candle, earthy, woody, musky, sweet. Pure patchouli is really strong, sweet, spicy. They often say it's really intoxicating and has an earthiness akin to the aroma of actual like wet soil. I think we all know what patchouli is. This is light on patchouli. It's more like the actual fresh green patchouli leaf versus your dried sort of head shop, kind of hippie patchouli that most folks think of when they think of patchouli. And then we get to that Phytogaia wood, which I believe doesn't have a fragrance to it, but is supposed to have the actual molecule that is going to be like forest bathing and calm us, which I will take it, whether it's marketing or science, again, or a combination of the two. I'm here for that. And then we get two things that if you see, and this is why I really recommend everyone do your research in the sense that you see gurgeon balsam and white moss. Gurgeon balsam, you think, oh, is that balsam like a Christmas tree? No, it is completely different. So gurgeon balsam, as a fragrance note, is said to exude a warm, sweet, balsamic, woody, again, those same four adjectives coming up a lot, scent profile with resonance hints of pine, patchouli, and camphor, and considered to be really beautifully calming and centering. It's a resin gum from a tree in Indonesia, prized in perfumery as an inexpensive fixative. So there are some essential oils and synthetic oils that are used as a fixative in fine fragrance, which basically means that either kind of steadies everything else, brings everything else together, or actually makes it last longer on the skin or in the air when you're burning it. And so oftentimes gurgeon balsam is used for that, to round out rough edges and bring aromatic notes together in a really cohesive manner. So really like the scientific part of that is not always just the scent, but what the scent and the oil can do, both from the feeling it's to give us, but also the actual properties to cohesively create a scent. So all that put together, like the adjectives say, earthy, green, fresh, deep, a little bit spicy, really nice. Not what you think of a spring garden. It's not dewy, it's not floral, it's not grassy green, but at the same time, it really is dark, fresh garden forest. Very, very interesting on that one. Then I move over to Damask, which has the peach or apricot right on here. Damask, they say, is a limited edition re-released scented candle, a rich intertwining of scent notes just as luxurious as the woven damask fabric for which it's named, innocent accords of stone fruit mixed with the weighted notes of Damascan rose, resinous labdanum, and moody oud wood to create a dynamic and luxury candle scent that is optimistic, untamed, perfect for relaxing romantic settings, and as a spa candle mood booster. Notes on that this one is really, it is soft, it is slightly sweet, especially when you're comparing it to the sort of, again, that earthy, herbaceous, green woodsiness that you're getting with the Hackney Garden. Notes on this one: apricot, cardamom, cherry, green apple, rose, copaiba basil. That I believe on the website is a typo. I believe it is actually copaiba balsam. Tobacco leaf, jasmine, suede, labdanum, oud, cistus, guaiac wood, and Peru balsam. Now you're seeing a lot in here that's going to carry through. These three scents specifically do have a lot of the similar fragrance notes, but they are expressed very differently, and they have primarily top notes as well that are quite different. So though you're going to hear a lot of this labdanum, some oud, the cistus, different woods, these are extremely different candles, but very cohesively built in partnership with each other. And so apricot, cardamom, cherry, green apple is the top. This is sweet. Apricot brings that creaminess. I love a stone fruit like apricot in home fragrance. Cardamom, a little bit of sort of a spicy earthiness from the cardamom seed pods. Cherry and green apple, don't think sweet, fruity farm stand collection. This is darker, richer in some ways. But it is just, especially, what's great about honestly having the multiple scents is you get nose blind to this, take a sniff of the neroli, the ivy, all the stuff that's in there, the patchouli, come back to this and you do get some of that sweet sort of, again, creamy warmth, fruitiness of, as they say, the innocent notes of those top notes. Rose, certainly in here, but not a primary player. The Rosalita has even more of the true rose in it. But then we get into, again, the things I want to dig into. So the copaiba balsam is considered a sweet, almost honeyed, balsamic and peppery essential oil often used in incense, and it's derived from a tree in Central and South America that acts as a base note and, again, a fixative. So think back like that gurgin balsam. Similar, balsams can be used as fixatives in home fragrance or fine fragrance. And as soon as I read that, the sweet, almost honeyed, balsamic peppery, I was like, okay, that is exactly what this brings, because that apricot, the cardamom, the cherry, the green apple are not bright, juicy, over the top. It's warm, honeyed, soft, kind of comforting notes, and I think that's what the copaiba balsam brings. Tobacco leaf also brings some warmth in there. So again, tobacco leaf in home fragrance, it's going to be a little leathery, but sort of that like warm, yellow, round comfort. Very almost heady, dry, but soft and earthy at the same time. And suede will do the same thing. The suedes are gonna bring that sort of, it's softened things. So it's deep, but it's not as dry like a wood might be, or as intense as, you know, a leather or something that's gonna be overly punch you in the nose. It's all going to be soft, though deep and warm. Not necessarily dark, but warm. And jasmine, a little bit of that floral in there, you know, kind of that heady white jasmine. I don't get much of that. I wouldn't have picked that out on my own, but I imagine it could be there, playing off of some of the fruits from the top notes. Then we go to the labdanum. Again, the labdanum is gonna be that amber animalic, sort of like your amber. So when you think of amber or musky things in fragrance, you're gonna get a bit of that here, but also a little bit fruity, a little leathery from that rock rose shrub. Then we go to oud. Oud is one of my favorite woods. It's actually from agarwood, and it is a resin that identifies many perfumes of the Middle East. And it gives really heady fragrances, strong, intense smells, woody, sweet, earthy, a little bit of leather, a little bit of spices. Oud is going to be from an agarwood tree that has a sort of fungus or bacteria growing in it. The tree then creates the oud resin, and that's this beautiful, beautiful smell that is used in fine fragrance. Then we go into cistus. Again, think of the labdanum, the cistus. Those are both from the rock rose shrub. They're going to both be somewhat amber focused, but the cistus is going to be that herbaceous, a little bit greener, a bit brighter, but also still kind of musky, earthy, herbaceous. Then we go into guaiac wood. This is another really interesting one. So guaiac wood can be a little kind of birch tar, kind of like tarmac, rubbery a little bit. Some tobacco as well on the whiff, tobacco leaf. Burning leaves in winter can be described as. It's not airy, it's not light. It's from the heartwood of a small tree called the Palo Santo. So if you're familiar with Palo Santo wood, you are likely already familiar with the smell of guaiac wood. It's not as dirty or as dark as the oud, the agarwood resin, but it still gives depth and intrigue to scents, and sometimes it's used with leather or tobacco. Again, don't think tar like burnt dark, but it is a bit of a heaviness there. Now granted, this is not imbalanced where it's just gonna be a dark, heavy wood candle and it's throwing on the oud and, you know, the musk of the cistus and the guaiac wood and the balsamic and the earthy and the warm. It's not gonna be all that, because you do still have your top notes of your apricot, your cherry, your green apple, your cardamom, your rose, which are gonna keep it from, you know, pulling too dark, too deep, too heavy with the base notes. And then finally, another balsam in here. This is Peru balsam, or balsam of Peru. This is actually similar to something that is used in fine fragrance a lot, which is benzoin, which is a yellowish balsamic resin from a certain type of tree from Southeastern Asia that is almost described as kind of vanilla-like. Think of how tonka beans are sometimes given, they're like an earthy vanilla versus your, sweet florally gourmand vanilla. Similar idea there. So Peru balsam is considered to be sweet, delicate, a little balsamic. There's that word, balsamic, makes sense, right? Warm, plush, a little ambery, a little resinous, powdery, but with a fruity vanilla, some woods, some cinnamon. I mean, what's so interesting about this, at least to me, I hope to you guys as well, is we're talking about one note here in 12 notes. And that one note of the Peru balsam, the balsam of Peru, has powdery, vanilla, woody, warm, plush, amber, cinnamon. It's like you really dig down and you're getting so many fragrance compounds that all blend together into the art of this to give us this one, Damask candle here. But the Peru balsam is actually from pods that grow from the tree, and it from a name that means fragrant wood in Greek. Soft, sensual, and the word that I found was cocooning, which is very much what this does. So while this is similar in, let's say, the idea of how these two work, as far as they have a lot of those similar earthy, musky, warm, cocooning, balsamic, herbaceous, sweet notes, they come across very differently because they use some of the same things, but expressed very differently, which I think is so fascinating. And then finally, we go on to the Rosalita. This is, again, the true rose scent. A limited edition re-release scented candle, Rosalita rounds out the garden of this spring candle collection, intertwining notes of Spanish cassis, saffron, and leather, with the sweet sting of Turkish rose petals, joined by additional notes of amber and cedarwood, creating a candle scent that is somehow both a floral and woody escape to a modern Spanish grove. This was a bestseller previously. This one has the fewest notes of all of them, starting with saffron, cassis, clove, Turkish rose, leather, cedar, and amber. A little bit more straightforward, not as much research necessary for this one. Saffron, I love saffron. One of my absolute favorite colognes is from Atelier Cologne, and it is Santal Carmine. And it is a beautiful, a bit of a sandalwood, but heavy on saffron. If you've eaten saffron in any dish, you likely know exactly what it smells like. It is the stamen of a flower, hand-picked, plucked, dried, and it imparts a really strong, somewhat leathery, a little bittersweet, soft, earthy, hay-like. Some people say a little rubbery almost, but really an earthy and grassy flavor, but still sweet, still somewhat floral, and almost that warm cocooning of like honey. Saffron really is like its own scent. It's hard to almost describe and to replicate because it is so specific and stands alone. Starts with a strong, again, powdery without being like the Japanese cherry blossom, like hit you in the nose powder. A comforting bit of a floral powder there. Cassis, of course, is going to be your sort of black currant. So that's going to be a little bit green, a little bit spicy, potentially, but going to be also kind of fruity because cassis, again, your black currant, think your dark berries, your blackberries, things like that. Clove, just a little hint of that clove to add that spiciness. Not a baking, not a gourmand, but still some clove there. And then Turkish rose. I would say more than any of the others. I know there's rose in one of the other ones in the Damask. The rose really does stand out here, which makes sense. That's what the primary, focus is of this Rosalita with the rose on a label. Really lovely Turkish rose. Very authentic rose in that sense. Now, this candle doesn't smell like a straight rose because you're having a lot added to it, but think of a fine fragrance interpretation of rose, and this is a really beautiful version of that. Leather, cedar, amber. So you've got it some depth, as they say. It has the amber, it has the cedar wood, which we know what amber smells like. Cedar, I love cedar wood because to me it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit wetter, it's a little bit sweeter than, some of your oaks and things like that, but not as dank and resinous as your agars, your ouds, your guaiac woods, all of those. And again, it really, as I think the description of this one is the most accurate in the sense of the cassis saffron leather, the sting of those rose petals, the amber and cedar wood, floral yet woody escape to a modern Spanish grove. Really beautiful. And I had this one burning and it was just a beautiful, rose with a lot going on, but a rose that is a rose that I would like, because I'm typically not the biggest fan of rose scents, but this is a really, really nice one that I appreciated when burning. So thinking of all three together, headlines on them. So you've got the Hackney Garden, which is going to be very herbaceous, very green, still some sweetness there, still got that orange peel, the ivy, the neroli bud, and a lot going on with the green earth forest of this garden. Then you've got the Damask, which is going to bring a softer, comforting, honeyed-like apricot sweetness, still with a heavy hit of your soft musks and multiple woods to bring some weight to it. And finally, your Rosalita, which is going to be leading with that rose with a little bit of playfulness coming in from the saffron and the cassis, weighted down appropriately with some of that leather, cedar, and amber. Really great collection. I will say again, performance-wise, we've got a mixed bag. This one I did put foil around to get a good burn on it. It did finally completely pull out, which was great. This one I let burn in my powder room on a shelf safely for a couple of hours. I didn't baby it, and it really did tunnel quite a bit, which is unfortunate. Probably won't be able to correct this, and just as kind of like lesson learned that it's, maybe they could do a little more work to make a better, truer burn even on their votives, considering they are $22 each for 3 ounces. You live, you learn. And then finally, the rose. I didn't give this full time to pull out, but it was a bit of a better burn, though the wick was dripping a little, and I did use sort of this wood chopstick to just kind of poke it to the one side of it, and it began to even out a bit, though I blew it out in purposes of starting this review. So overall though, I really enjoy them. If you can get somewhere to sniff them, do that. I do think it, again, is pricey. You know, you're paying a premium, per ounce, $66 for 9 ounces versus $44 for 8.5 ounces. You're paying that premium to get the 3 different scents with a beautiful presentation. A wonderful gift for anyone who's into these types of scents or really intriguing, fine, truly fine fragrance, home fragrance, or already a Boy Smells fan, or even for yourself, treat yourself. But I do recommend it. I do enjoy them. Again, they're the kind of fragrance where it's like, you don't buy a fine bottle of wine to chug on a weeknight without paying attention to what you're drinking. You don't buy a fine fragrance candle and just light it up and without giving it any second thought. Know what you're smelling, go into to understand what the perfumer was trying to create when they created it, when the brand built the fragrances, and you'll find so much more enjoyment from them. Once I did that, I really started to appreciate them for what they were built as really interesting, unique, super complex scents. So that is my review for today. Let me know if you have any questions, if you've sniffed Boy Smells, if you've purchased this or any other of their fragrances. I'd love to hear what you think. And until next time, take care.